Bonjour, merci. C'est un jour très triste, c'est une situation grave, mais ce n'est pas à ce moment, je pense, un moment pour panic pour tout le monde. My name is Elizabeth May. I'm leader of the Green Party of Canada, member of Parliament for Saanich Gulf Islands. I just spoke briefly moments ago in the House following the words of the Prime Minister. Tom Mulcair is leader of the official opposition, and Justin Trudeau is leader of the Liberal Party. I'm heartened by the extent to which partisanship is being set aside the day after the tragic events of the murder of Nathan Cirillo in front of our war monument here in Ottawa. But I do think it is worth having a moment to reflect on the questions that should be answered now. And having not had an opportunity on the televised remarks yesterday evening, I'm grateful for the chance this morning to share some of the immediate questions that come to mind. The first thing I want to say is that I'm actually heartened by the information that the CSIS and other intelligence services and the police had both assailants who committed murder this week known to them. In the case of the hit and run incident that killed Patrice Vincent, the driver of the car was known to police. His sudden fascination with radical violent organizations was known to police. The shooter yesterday, who brutally gunned down an unarmed soldier guarding our war memorial, Nathan Cirillo, the killer was also known to police. In both cases, and I think this speaks to a level of security and security awareness which should encourage Canadians, in both cases, the passports of the individuals involved had been withdrawn by the authorities. They were not free to travel. They were regarded as dangerous. Now, I think at this point we need to ask a number of questions, and the police investigation needs to take place. But I think the questions need to examine whether, before we condemn this as a terrorist act, we figure out whether an organized terrorist organization was involved or whether unbalanced, vulnerable, disturbed, violent young men, one not so young at 32 years old, were drawn to an extremist organization through social media. Whether they were part of it or not, we don't know. Whether they were directed by it, we don't know. We do need to get these answers because our response to these attacks must be proportionate to the attack itself. I think because the police and RCMP and our spy agencies knew about these individuals, that is, as I said before, I want to say again, that's encouraging. Je veux souligner que je pense que c'est bonne nouvelle que les policiers ont bonne information au sujet de les deux hommes qui ont tué les soldats cette semaine. The fact that they were known to police means that there are not, I hope, not vast networks of people unknown to the police. So then the question becomes, what is the appropriate action for authorities to take when someone has not yet committed a crime, but their family and friends, and by their own actions and websites, suggest that they could become dangerous and violent? Clearly, we need to have a better response than merely removing their passport. We need to think through what kind of surveillance, what kind of, if possible, reprogramming is possible when people have been brought in to a set of delusions that encourage them to be violent. This is an area where I think we could learn a great deal from the clerics in this country, the imams within the Islamic community, to help us spot people who are clearly not adherents based on a religious or sacred affiliation, but are being drawn to a new religion in their lives, new only in their lives, for the purposes of finding some purpose to life, and through the most twisted and brutal and misguided approaches are finding a purpose in becoming murderers and then being killed themselves. This is something that we need to address. We need to figure it out. It's that, as the Prime Minister mentioned this morning on the floor of the House of Commons, both killers were native-born Canadian citizens who'd grown up all their lives in this country, and their recent conversion to violent extremist behavior was recent. There are many questions that need to be answered about security on Parliament Hill. We've had very beefed up security since 9/11. You used to be able to drive a car up to the front doors of Parliament Hill without being intercepted. You used to be able to walk unimpeded. The Prime Minister used to walk from Langevin Block to the front doors of Parliament Hill. I don't want us to become a police state. I don't want us to become super militarized, but clearly procedures will have to be examined. At the end of the day, I can look back at many historical events, whether it was the assassination of Prime Minister Olof Palme of Sweden and the response in Sweden of complete shock that their prime minister could be killed in the streets. But that country didn't allow itself to become militarized. It responded appropriately to the nature of the threat when they finally determined what it was. If the nature of this threat is much, much more serious than I currently believe it is, well, then we will have to respond to that. But we must not lose sight of the fact that we are guided as a democracy in a free and open society by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. We must not surrender or allow intrusive police or CSIS or CSEC access to our personal details. We must not allow ourselves to surrender our own right to protect ourselves from intrusions by the state because we're afraid of someone else and want their rights to be impeded. It's not an easy task to govern in a time of fear. So I urge Canadians not to be afraid, to continue to face each day with a smile, and to know that we have much more in common than we have in the difference. We are Canadians, we share our values, we share this country, and we want to greet people from other countries with open arms. We can protect ourselves from threats where they exist. We should never surrender our rights and freedoms to do so. Thank you very much.